Hey there and welcome. Have you ever wanted to say you're going to the store or given a gift to a friend in Turkish? Well, you're in exactly the right place. Today we're diving into the Turkish Dative Case, or as we call it, Yönelme Durumu. This is the secret sauce for expressing any kind of direction or movement. So, here's what we're going to do today. We'll start with the main idea of direction. Then I'll show you two super simple rules to build it yourself. After that, we'll see how to use it to ask questions, cover a couple of little exceptions, and then wrap up with a whole toolkit of verbs so you can hit the ground running. Let's go. Okay, so first things first. Let's look at the big picture. Why is this tiny little suffix, just a letter or two, so important? Well, because it acts like a little GPS for your sentences, telling you exactly where the action is headed.
The easiest way to think about it is this. The Yönelme Durumu is your direction finder. Whenever you spot this suffix tacked onto a word, you know that's the destination. That's where everything is going.
So how do we actually make this happen? It might look a little tricky, but I promise it all boils down to two golden rules. And once you know them, you'll see them everywhere in Turkish. Let's break them down. And rule number one is a cornerstone of the Turkish language: vowel harmony. Now, that sounds way more complicated than it is. It just means that Turkish vowels like to sound good together. So the suffix you add has to match the sound of the word it's attaching to. And here's the entire rule on one slide. Turkish vowels fall into two main groups. You've got your thick vowels, a, o, u, and they take the a suffix. Then you have your thin vowels, e, I, u, and they take the e suffix. That's it. That's the whole rule. Let's see it in action because it makes so much sense when you do. The word for school is okul. The last vowel is u, which is a thick vowel, right? So we add a and get okula, to school. How about home? Ev. The last vowel is e, a thin vowel, so we add e and get eve, to home. It's the same logic every single time.
Okay, rule number two is just as easy. Turkish just doesn't like having two vowels bump into each other. So, if a word already ends with a vowel, we slide in a little buffer letter, the letter Y, to act as a bridge before we add our dative suffix.
I love these examples because you can really see how that ya just connects everything so smoothly. Take sinema. It ends in a, so we can't just slap another a on there. Instead, we add that ya bridge and it becomes senemaya. Same thing for hospitane, which ends in e. It becomes hastaneye. It just helps the word roll right off your tongue.
All right, we know what it is and we know how to build it. Now for the fun part. Let's actually use it. The dative case is your key to answering three of the most basic questions you can ask.
These three little question words are going to be your new best friends. We've got Nereye for places, Kime for people, and Neye for objects or ideas. Let's take a look at each one. First up, the one you're going to use all the time. Nereye. This is your number one go-to question for asking about a physical destination. Where are you going? And the answer puts our rules right to work. Nereye gidiyorsun? Ben markete gidiyorum. The word market ends with e, which is a thin vowel, so we just pop our e suffix on the end to get markete, to the market. Perfect. Okay, so we've covered places, but what about people? If you want to ask who is receiving an action, you use the question kime, which means to whom. In this case, the gift is directed to me. The word for to me is bana. Now hold on, I know what you're thinking. That doesn't look like it follows the rules we just learned. And you're right, it's a special case, and I promise we'll cover exactly why in the next section. For now, just focus on how the action is directed toward a person.
And our third and final question is Neye. We use this when we're asking to what, when the action is directed at an object or even an abstract concept.
So if someone asks, öğretmen neye başlıyor? The answer is, derse başlıyor. She's starting the lesson. The word for lesson, ders, ends in a, so it becomes derse. This is a fantastic example of how the dative case isn't just for physical places. You can be headed towards an idea, too.
Okay, you've got the main rules down pat. Now we just need to talk about two little quirks you'll see all the time. But don't sweat it. Once you see the pattern, you'll remember them easily. All right, remember that bana from a minute ago? Here's the deal. The personal pronouns for I, which is ben, and you, which is sen, are total rule breakers. Instead of becoming beni or seni, they transform into bana and sana. The rest of the pronouns behave themselves and follow the rules, but these two are so common you just gotta lock them in your memory. And the last little trick is something called consonant softening. It sounds technical, but it's not. Basically, if a Turkish word ends in one of these hard-sounding consonants, p, che, te, or k, and you add a suffix that starts with a vowel, that hard consonant, well, it softens. So kitap becomes kitaba. It's all about phonetics, making language sound more fluid and less choppy.
Okay, time to put all of this together. Because knowing the grammar is great, but you need verbs to actually build sentences and talk to people. So let's look at a toolkit of common verbs that almost always pair up with the dative case.
Think of this table as your conversation starter pack. We've grouped some really common verbs by the type of question they usually answer. And what's really cool is how some verbs like bakmak, which is to look, are super flexible. You can look at a place, at a person, or at a thing. So it shows up in all three columns. Use this as a reference, and you'll be building your own sentences in no time.
So, the big takeaway here is that you now have a brand new, powerful tool to express yourself in Turkish. You can talk about where you're going and what you're doing with so much more detail. And to put you to the test right away, I have one last question for you. Şimdi sen nereye gidiyorsun? Go on, give it a shot. Try answering it using what you've just learned.